it's finally time to speculate on the spicy things of Sumeru's lore based on the very cryptic things Nahida gave us. More specifically, the words, "Everything in this world runs on a loop." So today, let's ponder on this quote. Welcome to Aster Speculation on Sumeru, and the beauty of today's theory is everything burns eventually. Actually, rather than being a theory, I'd say that what Nahida said reinforces this narrative theme further, so instead of a theory, maybe I'll just call it a speculation. Maybe. Anyway, disclaimer, this video is not indicative of the final product. Everything here is a theory and just personal speculation. Regardless, let's begin while I silently wait for Sumeru's release. Let's begin with what the mysterious girl in the trailer said about the world. Everything in the world runs on a loop, but the truth in the end may be small and simple. While the context of the statement is unknown to us, and most likely will be revealed in Sumeru, I believe what she means is the Cycle of Corrosion, that ultimate heavenly principle that everything goes through eventually, according to Zhongli and A at the very least, and that no matter how immortal you are or how prosperous your kingdom is, you will eventually die. They say that the line of chief priests have always seen the same sight as their days draw to an end, a mountain of crowns in a secret place, beneath a withered tree, each one hiding a lifetime of secrets kept. Each retiring chief priest offers up their crown of flawless white branches to this world. Every mighty and ancient city, and every austere place of sacrifice must one day return to profundity in the earth. All prosperity must someday end. But this does not mean that nothing is eternal. At the end of a cycle, the earth shall be renewed. Thus eternity is cyclical. The search for truth is a product of prosperity, but not the seed that plants it. This passage comes from the Prayers artifact set, the Prayers of Springtime, removing the fascinating parallel of Dendro and this name of the artifact piece being Springtime. We also see the seed allegory. This passage talks about a priest that was sacrificed to appease the gods after the humans of an ancient civilization plotted to enter the Garden of the Gods. But what I want to emphasize are the parallels that this has with Sumeru's themes. The search for truth is a product of prosperity. Sumeru was a nation that thrived during the time of the Great Lord. According to the Sumeru stream, the death of the god symbolized the end of a golden age of Sumeru. However, in their attempt to cope with the loss of their greater lord, the sages had to fill in the power vacuum. There were some that didn't trust Kusanali as the next god, and the seeds of doubt slowly built upon it. A nation that loved their god but could not handle change. This reminds me of another story that I saw while researching this video. I remember hearing seed somewhere, and I immediately went to the archives to check the book known as Before Sun and Moon, a book that has a lot of history on Celestia, but also a parable at the very end. When I first read this and INQURIES released, I was so confused what this was for in the first place. Considering that everything in this book was supposed to be about Celestia, the sudden inclusion of a tree spirit was really jarring. But now that I reread it again, I theorized that this is the story of Sumeru and how they lost their god. The king's gardener and the tree spirit of the royal garden were in love. But the tree wished to repair the beams of his pavilion, and so needed to cut down the tree with the most spiritual energy within it. The king was the incarnation of the primordial one, and the gardener could not defy the sovereign of sovereigns. And so, he could only bring his plea to the king's prince, who was the incarnation of the Tokuyo Okami. The priest had pity on the gardener and said to him, "Go and cut down the branches of the spirit tree down." The gardener did so, and afterward did as the king ordered, cutting the spirit tree itself down. Then the priest said, "Plant the spirit tree's branches in the ground." But the gardener said, "A spirit tree shall take 500 years to grow." The priest said, "Your one thought shall echo through eternity." And so, the gardener planted the branches in his backyard. In an instant, the slim branches grow into a new tree, and the new tree spirit was a continuation of the past one. For it is the god of moments who is able to take seeds from this moment into the past and the future. Let's break this story down. First is that the king is the incarnation of the primordial one, and the gardener is someone that loved the tree spirit. I theorize that the gardener is a symbolism of the people of Sumeru, those sages referenced in the trailer that highly respected the Greater Lord, and were amongst the original people of the Academia 500 years ago, while the tree spirit is the god of the woods, the Greater Lord. Celestia calling upon the Archons to assist in the fight in Conria, much like how Makoto was called to Conria in the past, may be the metaphor for the king needing to use the tree with the most spiritual energy within it to rebuild its pavilion. This could even mean that the Greater Lord himself was sacrificed for some unknown reason. Continuing from this story, the god of time Istaroth would have been the one that devised a plan to grow a new spirit tree in the form of Kusanali. She would have been the one to advise the sages to plant the spirit tree's branches into the ground and wait for it to grow, which instantly grew into a new spirit tree, or what we know now as Kusanali, which, fascinatingly enough, draws parallels from another piece of history about Kusanali. The Kusanali Jataka is a series of 547 Buddhist poems. The story of it has potential connections to the parable of the tree. The Buddhista was once a fairy living in a humble clump of kusha grass. The king's palace had one large pillar holding up the roof, and it needed to be replaced. The royal carpenters searched far and wide for a suitable tree, and the only one they could find was home to a tree fairy the king greatly respected. The tree spirit that existed in this story wasn't Kusanali, or at least wasn't the fairy living in a humble clump of kusha grass, but instead another tree fairy by the name of Ananda. Luckily, with the fairy's quick thinking and powerful illusion, the tree itself was not burnt. Unfortunately, unlike our story, this is where the parallels end, because unlike the original story of Kusanali, our tree will eventually be burnt down. Or will it? Whether this is real or simply a possible future is unclear. If this is an illusion like in the original tales, or a true massacre, is unknown. We'll just have to wait and see. But I want to emphasize how important this scene is to not only Sumeru, but also Kusanali as a character. This scene is the pivotal part of both the real-life legend and the character herself. There are those that don't respect Kusanali because they believe she doesn't hold a mantle to their great lord. And at the same time, she refers to herself as the moon because the real sun is long gone. What if the Sumeru Archon quest was her finally proving her worth as Sumeru's Archon? The prevention of the fall of Sumeru by using her divine power and wisdom to save her people. Much like how the Kusanali Jataka saved the tree of Ananda. Kusanali is 500 years old, merely a child in the eyes of other Archons. But it is, as the gardener said, it takes 500 years for the tree spirit to grow. But yes, that's it for me today. I just wanted to talk about the connection between Kusanali and her potential past. But regardless, my name is Aster, and thank you for chilling with me. Also, if you're interested, get your gamer fuel by clicking the link down below to get 10% off of your next order from Gamer Subs. Anyway, bye-bye!